Hello, hello, hello. My name is Martin Gilchrist, and I am the founder of the Networking App. And I'm delighted, and I mean genuine delighted to be here with these two young men today, Alan and David. And I'm going to take one brief minute to explain to you why. Alan posted on LinkedIn, I think it was, about buying 100 coffees, having 100 conversations. A friend of mine, Deirdre Morrison, commented on that post and tagged me in the comment because she knows I am all about this. I love conversation with other business people. One thing led to another, and here I am with Alan and his partner David, and we are going to have a conversation today. And it's going to be very simple. We're just going to ask each other questions and answer each other's questions for about half an hour, and we'll see how we get on. Does that sound like fun? So, without further ado, David, first of all, can you tell us who you are and what it is that you guys are doing here?
So I'm David Walsh and my business partner and co-founder Alan Brosnan. We actually went to school together. Obviously, I was a year ahead of him. But our main connection comes through the fact that I was actually Alan's football coach, soccer that is not J football. Um, and essentially he began this business venture in January-ish. He got some great connections. Brilliant guy in Dublin called Mac O'Brien, kind of acts almost like our mentor. And tipping along, getting a few customers here and there. And Alan lands a really large job with, I don't know if we're allowed to disclose because it's not fully finished yet. But he realized, he's a great salesman, he's great at marketing, but when it comes to the tech side of it, even with the advancements of tools, he still needed someone. So he outsourced 50% to Mac and Mac's CTO Richard, who's also an incredible tech guy to put it simply. Um, and Mac said, Alan, you need to get someone who knows their stuff. And he kind of said, oh, my soccer coach does a bit of that. I know that. And so I was working mostly self-taught, but I spent the last year-ish working for an electricity supplier, just on the back end, working with their SQL database, which is how I learned SQL, and coding HTML and PHP by hand, which is, with the modern advancements, PHP is archaic to say the least. But I was able to build up experience and knowledge just through application. And then obviously Alan brought me on this wild ride, and yeah, it's just been advancing my knowledge more and more every day, letting Alan take all the meetings except for this one, obviously, while I sit and code.
Yeah, what we're going to also do during the conversation is I appreciate that there's a lot of information to share, but want to keep it quite snappy and get through a
Mm.
lot because obviously you guys want to get that information. Try and keep the answers about 2 minutes or so at the very most. So think
Yeah.
snappy, short answers because we want to get through a lot. So, Alan, what's your first question for me?
Well, I suppose I'd love to hear more about where you got the inspiration for the networking app. Because I mean, there's LinkedIn, but what's different about this? And I suppose where'd you get the idea?
I can remember when I was 17, if I looked at somebody who was 52, that's somebody that's older than my dad when I was 17. My dad wasn't I wasn't 52 when I said when I was 17. So I am really, really old compared to you guys. And I've been in business for a long, long time, over 30 years. Um, that's is that both your years combined almost? Anyway, a long time. And we have been very successful. My wife and I have been very successful in our accounting practice, which is Kilgrist and Go Chartered Accountants. And the reason we have been successful, apart from being really good at what we do, and there's a cliche there, you can be the best in the world at what you do and be offering it at the cheapest possible price and be the friendliest supplier of that service with all the best equipment. But if nobody knows what you're doing, you can't help anybody. So the world has to know what you're doing. Well, we didn't have the budget for a big, massive marketing or advertising campaign, so we did it by networking. And I became, even though at the start, I can remember waiting to go into my very first meeting in Belfast City Hall as a business networking thing that was put on by Belfast City Council, sitting out in my car, cacking myself because I didn't want to go in because I didn't know what to say or who I'd talk to or what would happen being there and if I was the right person to go into the room and all the rest. To now being recognised as one of the most prolific networkers in Northern Ireland. I don't give myself that title. That's what other people say. And it's probably because it's true and I love it. And it's brought great benefits to me and my business. And not only that, it's brought great benefits to my associate network. So people who are associated would have been through my work with. So I've seen huge value in it. And I suppose that's how I come to networking. Great question. And my question to you, Alan, is David mentioned that you found a mentor who has been very useful to you. How do you find a mentor? How does someone who's 17, I'm presuming still at school, um, maybe never been out in the business environment or business world before? I don't know, and maybe you can tell me a bit about that. But how did you get a mentor? How did you find this guy?
Great question. So yeah, like Mac O'Brien from Dublin, he's a amazing guy. When I first started looking into the I suppose the online space, I just threw up stuff on LinkedIn and I started reaching out to people, and he actually got back to me, and he's only 18 as well, and he's just a lot further in his journey than I am. So he was like, "Do you know what? I'm going to help out someone that started off where I was." And he was like, "Come, let's do a call first." So he had a great chat with me, told me a lot of things I didn't know already, and it kind of just sped up my journey a whole lot. And then he said, "Come to Dublin," where I met another about 10 or 11 more other young fellas that are doing absolutely amazing. So I suppose to answer your question, it was just luck, because I mean, great things happen at unexpected times. So there was not really a method or anything to it.
You just reached out. You
Yeah.
just seen a name and said, "Hello, I am. Here we are." Very good. Serendipity. It's amazing the way it works. David, what's your question for me?
So, with regards to your own networking app, as I said earlier, the technology is advancing and the actual, we'll say, entry barrier to developing a service is ever lowering. But with that, the actual barrier to gain users is increasing. How do you find you're able to pull users in? Do you find it more difficult than it would have been, we'll say, 10 years ago?
It's a lot easier. I can remember when I started Gilchrist and Co Chartered Accountants, and we knew our stuff. We were really, really good accountants. And but there was no. This was before Facebook, before LinkedIn. Yes, there was email, but there was really no social media. And it was very hard to build a personal brand except for going out there and building it face to face. And face to face is a very expensive way um, to build it. What we had to do was cold call. Who wants to do that? Nobody wants to do that, and it's not the best way of doing things, but it works. But see, when Facebook came along, I could not believe it. To me, Facebook was like having, and in the olden days, we all had business cards. I know you can see that, a business card. And we went to meetings, we give out business cards, and we hope loads of people have these business cards. The problem with business cards is we all have opinions of them. These are the business cards I've just collected and are sitting on my desk over the last month or so. Nobody ever looks at them because all it is a name and address and a telephone number. Facebook to me was a business card where you could talk live to the person that had given you the business card or who had taken your business card. You could share wee videos with them. You could tell them about your events. You could send them messages. You could leave messages. You could leave voice messages. It was like the best business card in the world. And that's when Gilchrist and Co started really taking off because it got an awful lot easier to reach people. So the question is it harder or easier to get people onto your platform now than what it used to be in the olden days? It's a million times easier. It's a million times easier. Suppose my question to you, David, is I can't believe what you guys are doing at your age. And I'm finding it even harder to believe now that Alan tells me the story that your mentor's 18. And I'm sitting going, it's Cork you guys are from. Where are you from?
Park.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Cork.
Cork.
Alan's the Kilburn side of Kanturk. I'm the Woherbury side of Kanturk.
Is Cork becoming like the Silicon Valley of Europe or something? Is there a load of young people down there that are like you guys that are entrepreneurially minded, that are out there shaking trees and kicking cans and making stuff happen? Or are you guys unique? is everybody else just like normal teenagers? Going,
Um,
I'm gonna go get drunk. Oh
I,
yeah, I don't know
s-
whatever teenagers do.
I suppose Cork isn't. It's more so Dublin being the epicenter. But that being said, although there is quite an amount of young people like us with ambition, it's probably still less than you might think hearing our story. So Mac and his team are Dublin based, and they are growing at an unprecedented rate. It's like the amount of new hires they have to bring in because of the rate of expansion is unbelievable. But then in Cork, I suppose I don't know if you've heard of Creus AI. That's run by a guy named Roy O'Leary. He's only 16, and he's speaking at events. And his business is he specializes in software for, we'll say, stock management for cafes, and it's his product is incredible, and they're expanding at a great rate as well. But it's more so, I suppose, it's not necessarily the fact that we're in Cork and Cork being the epicenter. It's more so the fact that Mac and his team are trying to elevate other agencies in the country. Like, we're not the only people, although we might have the closest working relationship out of all the agencies with him, we're not the only ones. He's bringing up agencies probably every week, twice a week to meet him. Because the way he said it is, if we can all create a group of agencies and we learn from each other's mistakes, then we can, reach the pinnacle of business far quicker than we could if we had to make all these mistakes ourselves.
Brilliant. Um, whose turn is it to ask me a question?
Mine.
Right, far away.
And I've got a good one. I
Oh,
suppose like what one of the main things about, I suppose, with the idea of the coffee chats is that I learn one really important thing off of each person. So I suppose my question for you would be is what would be the best piece of advice you give to me and David as two teenagers growing a business in Ireland?
it's the same piece of advice I would give to any business. Doesn't matter whether you're a teenager or you're 60 years old. You have to be able to sell something, and you guys have already done that. You've already got your first client, which is highly, highly impressive. To get someone, a stranger, to pay you money for your product or your service is absolutely key. Because if you can sell one, you can sell two. If you can sell two, you can sell 10. If you can sell 10, you can sell 1,000. You just have to keep ramping it up and dealing with, because being an entrepreneur is about solving problems. That's what it is. Every day, the problems come at you and you have to bat them away. But see, if you're not making money, the motivation, the inspiration, the dedication, the drive to do all of that, and the reason to do all of that fades away very quickly. And I appreciate that there's a lot of tech business and there's a lot of startup businesses don't make money for ages and they may make money down the future. But my experience is if they don't in the real world, not in the Elon Musk worlds and the Bill Gates worlds and the California where money grows in tree worlds, in here in Ireland, in the UK, in Europe, if you don't start making money fairly quickly, VCs don't care. Angel investors don't care. The government might give you a wee grant here or there, which you'll spend very quickly. But if you don't get into the habit of making money now, fades away. So start making money and start getting those bills out there and start getting paid, and then that's the motivation for everything else. Alan, you've sort of touched on it, but the point of the 100 coffees, that's a lot of conversations. When you're going into those coffees, do you go in with a strategic, do you have a line of questions that you need to get answered? Or is it more sort of laissez-faire? Let's see where this takes us because you just don't know where serendipity would happen. What's your approach to the 100 coffees?
So I suppose the same as everything else we're doing is just taking it day by day, step by step, because you never know where opportunity is going to come out of. And that's kind of the whole point of it. I think with every single person I meet for a coffee over the summer, there is going to be a bit of opportunity with everyone, whether it's we work together or whether it's they know someone that could help us or we could do something that could help them. So I kind of think it's just all about opportunity and it's all about just growing our business and actually growing as people as well.
Very good. Excellent. And I think it's a wonderful idea because you never know what you're going to find out from those conversations. I suppose a follow-up question to that is, are you being selective about who those 100 coffees are with? or will you take all comers?
I'm doing my best to take absolutely everyone that wants to chat because number one, I don't think I'm in a position to tell anyone no because no matter who it is, they're going to know something I don't. So I have to meet absolutely everyone that wants to because I don't want to tell someone no and end up regretting it in the future that why didn't I just have a chat with this person? And whether it's worth my while or not, it's the human connection is the important part of every conversation.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Wisdom beyond your years there. You never know. I'll give you an example as to why. We have one of our most successful referrers to Gilchrist and Co Chartered Accountants. So the fella that referred the greatest value of professional services work to our practice was a gardener who worked by himself, who is in his 60s. So, given that our area of expertise in the accountancy practice was professionals in independent practice, professionals in the legal, medical, tech, and creative sectors, we wouldn't have expected the most referrals to come from a gardener. But this gardener was doing the gardening for doctors, solicitors, barristers, web developers, music producers, all these people who then, when he was chatting to them, he said, yeah, I've got an accountant because he was proud of the fact he had an accountant. And he told them who we were and told them we were great people and all this work. So you just never know. You never know who the work's going to come from. David, what's your question?
So I suppose to link back to my first question where you mentioned Facebook and the introduction of Facebook, as someone who's, spent decades in the business industry and spoken to many established businesses, how would you say those established businesses tend to react when it comes to adoption of new technology? Would you find they're quite resistant? Because obviously that is our whole business practice, is aiding in businesses adoption of new technology. So I suppose this is us scoping out the market a small bit, is do you find established businesses are resistant to the advancement of technology?
Everybody's resistant. Everybody. And businesses are just either individuals who are in business by themselves or they're groups of people that have come together for the purposes of business. So if you have a boss and you have four people and one person in that team, regardless of who they are, is completely resistant to that thing, they can actually make the process of implementing systems very difficult. Way, way, way back, when I was about 23, 24, I was late to start my own business compared to you guys. I was 23 or 24. I set up my first business was called Legal Accounting NI. So I'd done a law degree and worked in solicitors firms and I specialized in looking after their accounts. And I worked with an organization called Solus, and what they did was case management and accounting software specifically for legal firms. And it cost like 50, 60, 100,000 pounds to install. It was very expensive software. When the partners decided to buy this software, they were invested and they were 100% behind it. But the thing is about legal partner in legal practices, the partners are off busy doing legal stuff. They're in court, they're talking to barristers, they're talking to clients, they're fighting cases, they're looking after case files. They're much too busy to worry about whether or not, the case management system's working. That's what the admin team do. And what I found, even though the bosses were bought in on the project, if you had, for example, a legal bookkeeper, which is a central position within a practice like that, because you tend to only have one and they have the keys to the kingdom, and they weren't bought on, they could make your life very, very difficult. So, in answer to your question, how reticent are businesses? People don't like change because change is difficult. And even where they're super enthusiastic, if there's something learning from something from scratch or something from new, it's going to take time. You're going to have to convince them. They're going to have to see the benefit of it. They're going to see that they're not losing out in some way, that it's not costing them more money, that they can trust the new technology, that they can trust you to implement the new technology, that when you leave, it's going to work when you're gone, that there's not going to be something that they're not aware of, that the stuff that they don't know is going to. So people are reticent to new technology. But also, business people, entrepreneurs, um, the reason they're entrepreneurial is that they're risk taking. They've seen an opportunity, just like you guys have, and they've run for it, and they've got the guts and the courage and the wherewithal and the intelligence to make stuff happen out of absolutely nothing. That's what entrepreneurialism is: having an idea and convincing the rest of the world that you're the person to provide that service or scratch that itch, whatever the case may be. So people are reticent, but if you tell the story in the right way, if you approach them in the right way, if they trust you, if you're credible, if you've got a good personal brand, if you've got a good business brand, you can still get in there, and that's how business works. So that's what I'm thinking. David, my question to you, and this is more sort of a, I'm curious. I'm curious from my accountancy head sort of way of doing things. How are you going to structure this new venture that the two of you are going into? I presume you're equal partners or whatever that is going in there. Are you going to have a limited company? Are you going to treat it as a limited liability partnership or a standard partnership? Are you just going to associate with each other in two separate businesses? What way is that all going to
Uh,
work out?
so, funnily enough, my mother's actually an accountant herself. So she insists we do everything by the book, as legal as possible. No chance of getting sued, as she continues to hit on. So at this current moment in time, we're both set up as sole traders while we're setting up our limited company. So we're in the process of starting our founders agreement. We hoping to close a deal later today, which will act as seed money for solicitors to look over our agreements, set up our business name on CRO as well as our sub brands, because we have a few apps and developments. We need to have sub brand names set up, and then we need to transfer all ownership to the limited company, which is also in the process of being set up. The difficult thing though is obviously Alan's 17, so he can't act as a director for now. So we have to find a workaround so that he can pass liability to a parent or guardian in the meantime. But yeah, no, we're doing it. We're doing it as well and officially as we can, because this is hopefully long term and has to be by the book in order to last.
Do you know what? I honestly, talking to you guys, it's like talking to two 30-year-olds. You really have your head stretched on it. You're answering all the hard questions with the right answers. I love the fact that your mother's an accountant, and is bringing that cloud.
She's actually an accountant and a business lecturer, and she mentored small enterprises for the local enterprise office.
Excellent.
And she has a master's in fintech she delivers. So this is her field. And my father's database architect. So not only does she give business advice, my father gives technical advice if I ever need it. So, and Alan's dad's a salesman as well, which it
Yeah.
all links together.
That's how you say you've got £1,000 an hour advisors just on tap. That is quite the way to start, and do you what, leverage it, because they will have the experience and the knowledge, and that whole thing about getting the legals right from the start, it is so important, and most people don't realize, because they don't know what they don't know, and I have been in business long enough now to see complete catastrophes happen where people don't just have the simple things in place. It's not that you guys don't trust each other. Obviously, you trust each other. Obviously, you can work together. Obviously, you've got your head screwed on. You'll be able to work out differences and all the rest. But see, putting that structure in place now, when outsiders come along, when external investors come along, when angel investors or hopefully potentially VC some funds or whatever it is you guys decide, when when wives and girlfriends come along, you know what? All those things are crystallized, and everybody knows where to stand. So yeah, I'm delighted to hear. I'm delighted to hear that you've got that advice. Right. What's my question?
So, Martin, I suppose what I'd love to know is why did you decide to be an entrepreneur? What actually drove your passion to become an entrepreneur?
I couldn't not be an entrepreneur. Um, if you get a chance, and if you can be bothered, take 10 minutes and just look back through my LinkedIn profile and all the posts that are on there and all the events that I've supported or made happen, all the activities that I'm involved in, all the businesses that I talk to, all the conferences that I attend, um, all the stuff that I share. It's all about entrepreneurialism, business start, professionals and independent practice, the fantastic things that businesses are doing. And if you boil it right down to what my passion is, what it is I'm trying to support, obviously I need to make a living, I have to pay a mortgage and go on holidays and support a family and all that good stuff like that. That's. But once that's done, and once you've made enough money to do you for the rest of your days, what's it about then after that? And what it's about is what exactly and why I'm on talking to you guys now. is exactly what yous are doing. You're coming 17, 18, and I appreciate you've got all that knowledge on tap, all that fantastic experience you can call into, but they're not doing it. You know, your mum's not doing it, your dad's not doing it, you're doing it. You're responsible for this. You're responsible for this idea. Alan, you're responsible for having reached out to your friend from school who you knew had this knowledge and capability and had coached you and all the rest. You're responsible for reaching out to your mentor and becoming the idea. You're responsible for the idea that has come up. And I love when people do that. They come up with an idea, they think of something in their minds, and they have the courage and the wherewithal to go out and bring people with them, because that's what you have to do. You have to bring your customers with you. You have to bring your supporters with you. You have to bring your network with you. You have to be able to tell a convincing story. Before you can tell that convincing story, you have to understand it yourself. You have to have done the work and the research. You have to learn the stuff you need to learn. You have to make the personal investment. You have to take the risk. And then you change the world. Why would I not want to support that? Why would anybody not want to support that? Changing the world for the better, that's one of the key aspects of entrepreneurialism, of what you're doing and why I've been doing it for 30 years. Does that make sense?
Great answer.
Thank you. Thank you. This is going to be my last question, and you guys have one last question, and then we'll do a wee summing up before we go. Guys, how can I help you? Whoever wants to take the question.
It's a difficult question. Well, I suppose your knowledge alone, even just on speaking with you right now, is absolutely fantastic because, as I said, I'll learn something new every call. David will learn something new every time we meet someone new and have a conversation. And on this call, we've probably learned two or three things already. So I suppose anytime we get to sit down and chat with you or sit down with chat with people you might know, there's always going to be something new to learn and there's always going to be a new idea. And it's just every time a conversation is had, you'd never know where the opportunity is going to come from. So I suppose bringing more human connection and I suppose introducing us to more people and you yourself teaching us as much things as you possibly can when you're not busy, of course, that's all going to be a huge help to what we're trying to do and how we're trying to grow our business and other future ventures.
Brilliant. Well, I'm here on top. You know, this isn't about, billing and whatever that is. It's about what you discussed. Entrepreneurs coming together to support each other because the rising tide lifts any ship. So anytime you want to reach out to me, I'll be following what you guys are doing with interest. I'll be sharing where appropriate the story. Please do keep me in the loop and I will do what I can. David, do you have a final question or comment or suggestion before we go?
Yeah, I suppose one last question, and it's less of a bit of business advice, more just general life advice. Work-life balance. We're only a few months into this venture, and I don't know about Alan, but I don't get enough sleep. So, as someone with nearly 30 years experience in entrepreneurial, is that's not a word, as an entrepreneur, how do you find you manage to actually balance everything outside of work and contain your work life within itself, within its own sphere, so it doesn't spread and affect, in this case, your ability to sleep?
Here's my view. When you have other people in your life that care about you and need you and all the rest, you need work-life balance. So if you have a wife, if you have a girlfriend, if you have children, those people love you and they need your time. You know, when you're 17, 18, if you don't have a girlfriend, if you don't have a wife, if you don't have kids, go 100%. 100. Now, what I'm not saying is don't burn yourself out. I've seen people that burn out. Burnt out is when you get so exhausted that you're too tired to get up in the morning and do the thing, or you start hate doing the thing. If you feel yourself starting to hate it, if you feel yourself being exhausted that you can't do it, if you feel yourself being at a point that you think, I don't know what I'm doing this for, that's take the foot off the pedal, go out for a walk, go out with your mates, have a few pints, have a laugh. If you're not laughing every day, you're doing something wrong. This should be fun. This should be brilliant. This should be making your life worthwhile. But so long as you're ticking those boxes, having fun, enjoying it, excited about it, motivated by it, inspired by it, talking to people that are also passionate about it, making friends, getting rich, go 100% because you've got the rest of your life for making it. I'll sleep when I'm dead. Now, I say that with a wee bit
Spot
tongue
on.
in cheek. Look after yourself, look after your health. Be aware of where you are in relation to stress and pressure, anxiety, and all that type of stuff. Do not put yourself into a situation where you feel unwell. But apart from that, if you're passionate about this, doesn't matter what you're passionate, go 100% at it. Guys, I'm going to have to finish up here because our time's nearly up. I don't think we're going to even have time for a wee chat afterwards, but I will catch up with you afterwards. I'll hit the stop button here. Thank you very much for your time. You are genuinely an inspiration. I'm sure everybody who sees this afterwards will understand why.
Thanks,
Sure.
Martin.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Pleasure.